Welcome back to the GCSE Maths Pro YouTube channel. In this video, we will be going through direct proportion. So this is part 1 of the whole proportion topic, and there will be 4 videos in this series. So the first things that you need to know are these 2 equations. They are not on your formula sheet. I would recommend you memorize them. So obviously there's one for direct proportion, and there's also one for inverse proportion, which we will come to in the next video. So I've used y and x as those are the most common letters, but they might substitute different letters into this. As long as you input those letters in the same order into the formula, it will work. So y is directly proportional to x. That means that, let's say, if y increases, x will also increase. So you can see that's represented by this formula here. Y is equal to k multiplied by x, and k, even just generally in algebra, represents a constant, and a constant is basically just a number, right? So it's a number. So this is actually, if you think about it, a straight line graph, isn't it? It's just a straight line. So it could be something a bit like that, straight line. The k is then obviously technically the gradient, isn't it? And that will be different for each proportion relationship. Then you've got y is inversely proportional to x, which is y is equal to k divided by x or over x. And also be really careful with this one. K is still some kind of constant, some kind of number that you'll have to figure out in each question. But make sure that you don't get these two mixed up, because I think it can be quite easy to put x over k, but it's not that. K is the numerator, x is the denominator. That's effectively a reciprocal graph, so if you were to draw it, it would look a little bit like this. But we'll come more to the graphs in the 4th part of this series. For today, we're just going to be focusing on this formula, y is equal to kx, and direct proportion. So we'll go through a variety of questions. The first one I've laid out in a table format. They might do that. Or there'll be others where we don't use a table as well. So we've got y is directly proportional to x. And then the question is just to complete the table. So we've got missing values of x and y. So for all direct proportion and also for inverse proportion, there are 3 steps. Step 1. We need to choose the correct formula. So that's what I was referring to the previous page. Obviously, because it's direct proportion, I'm going to write it like this. Y is equal to kx. That's direct proportion. Now, as I said, k is a number, so for every question, you are going to have to work out what k is. So we do that by substituting in what I would call a matching pair. So a pair of values that you've got for x and for y. Either they will list it in the question, or if you have a look here, we have this column of our table. This column of our table tells me that when x is 9, y is 27. So substitute in your matching pair. Obviously make sure you substitute it into the correct letters. Obviously if I substitute in x as 9, that would just go in front of the k, wouldn't it? So do you see how now I've got an equation with just k in it, which means I can solve it. So step 2 is to use your matching pair and solve for k. So obviously that's just an equation. So divide by 9. In this particular relationship, k is 3. So just rewrite your formula. And then step 3 is actually to answer the question, right? So complete the table. So in that case, we've kind of got 2 steps here, haven't we? The first one is that I know that y is 15, what is x? So if I substitute in 15 to my formula, then I can easily now solve that to find the x value, can't I? If I divide by 3, get x is 5, so that fills in this box. And then answer the question again. This time though, I know that x is 13. So actually, I don't even need to rearrange anything. I just need to work that out, which is 39. And now I've completed the table. So you've got 3 steps. Step 1 is to choose the correct formula. So direct proportion, inverse proportion. Step 2 is to find the value of k by using the matching pair that they must give you. And step 3 is to answer the actual question. So as you can see, it's pretty much just basically algebra. It's a lot of substituting in, rearranging, and then solving. That's pretty much it. As long as you're happy with algebra in that sense, and you remember the 2 formulas to start with, then direct and inverse proportion, for the most part, should be fairly straightforward. So now let's apply the same 3 steps to a different question. So this one, we don't have the table format anymore. We've just got it written out in a very straightforward way, and actually, the 3 sentences do match up to the 3 steps. So we've got y is directly proportional to x again, so that's obviously step 1. We've then been told when y is 4, x is 8, so that's my matching pair. I personally would call a matching pair. They have to give you the 2 pairs of values, otherwise you can't work out the question. And then the actual question is obviously find the value of x when y is 17, so don't worry about that until we get to the end. So step 1, what equation are we using? Obviously direct proportion, and we've got y and we've got x, so y is equal to kx. Step 2, straight into using this matching pair of values to find out the value of k for this particular relationship, because the value of k will always change. So if y is 4, then I've got 8k. Just solve this. So divide by 8. 4 divided by 8 would simplify to a half. So in this case, k is a half. So I do recommend rewriting the formula just so you remember that you know what k is. So my relationship between y and x is y is equal to a half x. And then step 3, answer the actual question. So find the value of x when y is 17. So obviously I will substitute in 17 where the y is, equals to a half x, and now I just need to solve this for x. So in this case, you can either divide by a half or you can times by 2. So either way, you should get x is 34. It's really as straightforward as that. 3 steps, remember the correct formula to start with, and you'll be good to go. Okay, the only reason why this one is now different is because my proportion relationship is slightly different, so I'll show you how to handle it. We've now got y is directly proportional to x squared. So it's no longer just x, it's now x squared. So this second part here, the second letter, could actually change in terms of being squared, cubed, square root, cube root, that type of thing. The 3 steps will remain the same though. So step 1, it is still a direct proportion relationship. So it's still y equals kx, but instead of just x, I'm now going to copy whatever's in my question. So it's y is equal to kx squared. So just copy whatever they've got there. Step 2, we still want to find the value of k for this particular relationship by using the matching pair. So they've told us that when y is 90, x is 6, so substitute both of those in. So 90 equals k times 6 squared, and then if we work that out, that's 36k, isn't it? So you can divide that across, and it gives me 5/2, or in other words, 2.5. So let me just rewrite my relationship. Y is equal to 5/2 x squared. Don't forget the square because it will change all of your answers if you do. And then step 3 is to answer the actual question. Find the value of y when x is 2. So substitute in x being 2. So 5/2 times by 2 squared. If you put that in your calculator, if you work that out, you should get 10. Y is 10. So you can see it's exactly the same steps. I've just had a little bit of an extra complication with the x squared, but otherwise it does follow the same method. This one is very similar. Again, the only difference is we now have the square root of x. So y is directly proportional to the square root of x. So let's write that in my proportion formula. Y is equal to k times by the square root of x. When y is 3/2, x is 25, so that's now my matching pair to find the value of k. So 3/2 is equal to k multiplied by the square root of 25, so obviously that's technically 5k, isn't it? So I need to divide 3/2 by 5, and that actually gives me 3/10, or if you want to use a decimal, 0.3. So rewrite my formula just so I remember that I now know the number, the constant, instead of just putting k. And then finally, step 3, answer the question. Find the value of x when y is 12/5. So 12/5 is equal to 3/10 square root of x. And it's just rearranging, isn't it, at this point, solving. So I'm going to divide by 3/10. If you divide 12/5 by 3/10, you should get 8. And then obviously to get x, I need to square both sides. The opposite of square rooting is squaring. So x is 64. Now my final 2 questions are the same thing. The only difference is they're now a worded scenario. But we're still going to try and pick out the same 3 steps. So the cost, they've told us to use the letter C, of a hotel is directly proportional to the number of days, D, spent there. It costs £250 to stay for 5 days. How much would it cost to spend 9 days in the hotel? So can you see how we've got the 3 same sentences? The first sentence is going to give me my formula. My second sentence is my matching pair. I've got the cost and I've got the number of days. obviously then the actual question. So step 1, in this case, I'm not going to use y and x. You obviously can if you like, but they've told me to use c for the cost and d the number of days. So how do I translate that into my direct proportion formula? Well, as I said, just write the letters in the same order that they tell you. So c would be first. Let's do k, because that's just part of the equation, isn't it? The formula, multiplied by d. So normally it's y equals kx. All we've done here is change y for c and then x for d, isn't it? That's the same thing otherwise. So that's my formula. Obviously, I do need to work out the value of k as I do for every proportion question. So step 2, use the matching pair to find the value of k. So the 250 is the cost, so that's the c. And then 5 is the number of days, so d. And you see how now I can still literally do the same thing, solve it to find k, which is 50. So my actual formula is c is equal to 50 d. In other words, if you think about it in the real life context, it's saying that it costs £50 a day. Step 3, answer the question. How much would it cost, so we're trying to find out c, to spend 9 days in a hotel? So we want to find c, we've been given d, so we're substituting in 9, where it says d, which will give me, in terms of pounds, £450. So it's exactly the same steps, exactly the same method. The only thing that may have changed is obviously it's now worded, and we just have to pick out the letters that they've given us and try and translate it back into algebra. So this is our final question, and it is very similar to the previous one, just in the fact that it's also a worded scenario. So the average daily temperature, T, is directly proportional to the number of hours of sunlight, S. So step 1, let's translate that into our equation. The temperature is, so put equals wherever you see the word is, K times by the number of hours of sunlight, Ks. So T is equal to Ks. Step 2, the average daily temperature is 24 degrees on a day that has 6 hours of sunlight. So the value for T is 24, the value for S is 6. So now I can solve that to find K by obviously just dividing by 6. So K is 4 for this particular one. So my equation, my formula is T is equal to 4S. And then step 3, obviously just answer the question. How many hours of sunlight would there be if the daily temperature is 18 degrees? So 18 is for T, equals to 4S, just divide by 4, is 4.5. So that's obviously then, in the context, 4.5 hours of sunlight. So that is everything you need to know for direct proportion. Make sure obviously to check out the second video on inverse proportion so you can practice that different formula as well. Otherwise, thanks for watching this video. If you found it helpful, make sure to like and subscribe and leave down below any questions or comments that you might have.